This happened in October 2021. Back then, I was a small content creator on YouTube, mostly doing urban exploration videos, abandoned places, late-night challenges, all that creepy clickbait stuff that gets good views during Halloween season. It started as a joke between me and my best friend, Mason, but slowly the channel picked up traction. We got monetized, we started getting real views, and that's when we decided to go big for Halloween. A live, overnight stream inside an abandoned psychiatric hospital about 30 minutes outside Pittsburgh. The place had been closed since the early 90s. There were a lot of rumors about it. Experiments on patients, underground tunnels, people hearing screams at night. Perfect horror fuel. We planned to stream for 6 hours straight, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., no cuts, no edits, just live. We didn't know that was the worst decision we'd ever make. The building was huge, 4 floors, half collapsed, graffiti everywhere. The second we stepped inside, the air felt thick, damp. The smell was something between rot and rust. I remember Mason saying, "This is gold, man. People are gonna eat this up." We set up 2 cameras, one handheld and one on a tripod near the entrance. I kept my phone mounted on a rig for the live stream chat. Everything went fine at first. We explored the old wards, read creepy graffiti like "help us" and "get out," typical haunted house nonsense. The chat was blowing up with comments, people saying they saw shadows behind us or faces in the dark. We laughed it off. Then, around 1:12 a.m., the live stream glitched for the first time. It was quick, maybe 2 seconds of static. But when the feed came back, the chat exploded. "Who's the guy behind you? There's someone standing in the hallway. Pause, go back, go back." We replayed the footage on my phone, frame by frame. And yeah, there was someone there. In one frame, between me and Mason, at the end of the hallway, a tall, pale figure, just barely visible in the dark. No face, just a long, narrow head tilted slightly, watching us. I thought it may be a reflection or someone who followed us in, but the doors had been locked. We'd checked. Mason laughed nervously and said, "We've got a fan joining the show, huh?" But I could see it in his eyes. He was freaked out. We tried to keep the stream going, but from that moment on, things started to feel wrong. In the old records room, I started hearing something faint under the wind, a whisper. At first, I thought it was feedback from my mic, but it grew clearer, like someone standing just behind me, repeating a single phrase over and over. "Don't leave the door open." I spun around, no one there. Mason hadn't heard it. We kept moving. At around 2:30 a.m., Mason suggested we split up for a few minutes, cover more ground for the audience. I didn't like it, but it made sense for content. He went to the upper floor, I stayed on the ground level. That's when the chat started going crazy again. "We see him. He's behind Mason. Tell him to turn around." I yelled into the mic, "Mason, check your 6." No reply. The connection glitched again. For about 10 seconds, the screen went black. When it came back, Mason was gone. The camera he'd been carrying was lying sideways on the floor, still streaming, showing part of a wall with flaking paint. The chat exploded. Some people thought it was staged. Others started panicking, saying they saw a figure dragging him out of frame. I sprinted upstairs calling his name. Every room was empty. My flashlight flickered like it was dying. The air was freezing. And then I heard it again. That whisper. "Don't leave the door open." I turned and saw a half-open door at the end of the hallway. It was the only one not locked or rusted shut. My gut screamed, "Don't go in," but I did. Inside, the walls were lined with cracked mirrors, old, shattered pieces reflecting distorted angles of the same space. In one of them, I saw something that made my blood run cold. In my reflection, Mason was standing behind me. But when I turned around, no one was there. The reflection, though, it didn't change. It was still showing him standing there, head slightly tilted, his mouth moving silently. I stared at it until the feed glitched again. When the static cleared, Mason was gone, from both reality and the reflection. The whispers turned into screams. I dropped the camera and ran. I don't remember leaving the building. The next thing I recall is sitting in my car outside with my hands shaking so badly I couldn't put the keys in the ignition. I tried calling Mason's phone. No answer. Texted him. Nothing. When I got home, the live stream had already gone viral. Over 80,000 people had watched it live. Comments were flooded with freeze-frame screenshots, theories, timestamps. But here's the thing. When YouTube processed the stream, the last 2 hours were missing, just cut off. The file ended abruptly at 1:12 a.m. right after the first glitch. Everything that happened after that, gone. No record of me yelling, no footage of Mason disappearing. The police searched the hospital for 3 days. They found his camera, cracked screen, battery dead. No sign of him. No tracks, no blood, nothing. They said he probably ran off and got lost in the woods. But I know what I saw, and it didn't end there. 2 weeks later, I was editing my next video at home when I noticed something strange. Every time I paused the footage, the background would flicker, just for a split second, and I'd see a face behind me in the reflection of my monitor. A long, pale face, tilted slightly, watching. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, but when I froze the video and brightened the frame, it was there. In the reflection behind me, Mason. Same tilted head, same hollow eyes. I shut everything down and stopped streaming. I deleted the channel, changed my number, moved apartments. But sometimes, when I walk past the dark window, I still see that reflection. Not behind me, but inside the glass, like he's trapped somewhere else, still streaming from the other side. Last Halloween, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject, no message, just a video attachment. It was only 6 seconds long. The footage was shaky, dark, and filmed from a low angle, but I knew the place immediately. It was the same hallway from the hospital. And in the corner of the frame, I could see myself holding a flashlight, turning toward the camera, just before the static. Now I don't go near abandoned buildings. I don't record anything anymore, because deep down, I'm scared that whatever we found that night, or whatever found us, is still watching. And every October, I still get one notification I can't explain. A YouTube alert that says, Mason is live.
This happened in 2018, when I was working as a night janitor at a private boarding school in northern Pennsylvania. The school was old, the kind of old that still had radiators instead of vents, wood floors that groaned under your feet, and stairwells that smelled faintly of iron and mildew. It sat on top of a hill surrounded by woods. During the day, it looked like a postcard, peaceful, historic, expensive. But at night, when the halls went dark, it felt different, hollow. I worked alone most nights, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. My job was simple: clean classrooms, take out trash, lock up. The kind of work where you put in earbuds, zone out, and just go through the motions. Until that one Halloween night. That night started like any other. It was windy outside, and the building creaked more than usual. Leaves scraped against the windows, and every now and then I'd hear the faint thump of pipes expanding. Around 1 a.m., I was mopping the second-floor hallway of the east wing, the oldest part of the building. The whole floor had been shut down for repairs for months, but they still made me clean it occasionally to keep the dust down. As I was finishing up, I noticed a door I didn't recognize. It was halfway down the hall between two classrooms that I knew were locked and unused. The strange thing was, I could have sworn that wall didn't have a door before. It wasn't new though. The paint was chipped, the knob rusted. Above it, a small plaque read, Room 119. There was no Room 119 on the floor plans. I'd seen them dozens of times. Curiosity got the better of me. I tried the handle. Locked. I shrugged it off, but as I started to walk away, I thought I heard something behind it. It was faint, like fabric shifting, or maybe breathing. I froze, pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. Just silence. Then, 3 slow knocks came from the other side. I jumped back so fast the mop handle clattered to the floor. My first thought was a prank. Maybe some students had snuck in. But there were no dorm rooms on that floor, and the main doors were alarmed after hours. Still, I forced a nervous laugh and said, "Hey, whoever's in there, you're not supposed to be here." Silence again. Then a voice, soft, distorted, like someone speaking through cloth. "Is it morning yet?" The sound of that voice made every hair on my arm stand up. It didn't sound like a student. It sounded old, tired. I stepped back and radioed security, told them someone might be inside a locked room on the east wing. They said they'd send a guard to check it out, but it might take a few minutes. While I waited, I couldn't help staring at the door. Then, from underneath it, I saw movement. The faintest shadow passing by, and what looked like the edge of a bare foot. I took another step back, heart pounding. I thought about running down the stairs, but before I could, the doorknob clicked. It turned, slowly. Once. Twice. Like someone inside was trying to open it quietly. Then it stopped, and a whisper came again, clearer this time. "They forgot me in here." That was enough. I bolted down the stairs, radioing the guard again and telling him not to go up there alone. When I reached the main floor, the head of security, a guy named Jim, met me by the office. He grabbed his flashlight and said, "Stay here, I'll check it out." 5 minutes passed, then 10. No response on the radio. Finally, I heard footsteps coming back down the stairs. Jim looked pale, like he'd seen something he couldn't process. I asked him, "Did you find anyone?" He just shook his head slowly. "There's no door there, kid. Just wall." I thought he was joking, so I went back up with him. But when we reached that same hallway, he was right. There was no room 119, just a smooth stretch of plaster where I knew a door had been. I felt sick. I kept saying, "No, it was right here, I swear." But Jim just stared at me like he wasn't sure if I was messing with him. He made a note of it in the logbook, told me to go home early, and that was that. But that wasn't the end. 2 nights later, I came back from my shift. As I was clocking in, Jim handed me a folded paper. He said, "Found this taped to the supply closet. Figured it was some kind of joke." It was an old yellowed note, the paper brittle at the edges. The handwriting was neat, cursive, and faded. It said, "If anyone finds this, please tell my father I'm still here. They said they'd be back for me after the drills, but no one ever came. M.R. October 29th, 1956. I asked him where exactly he found it. He said it was taped to the inside of the closet door, the one right next to where I'd seen room 119. We both stood there in silence for a while. Then Jim muttered, "That whole wing was a fallout shelter back in the 50s. They used it for drills during the Cold War." Something about that hit me hard. Later that night, when I went up there again, I don't even know why I did, I saw it. On the same wall where the door had been, the paint looked slightly different, like there was an outline of something underneath. In the center, faint but visible, someone had scratched letters into the plaster. It said, 119. I stood there for a long time, just staring. Then I noticed something else. Pressed into the dust below the wall were handprints, small ones, like a child's. After that, I quit the job. A few weeks later, I got a call from Jim. He sounded uneasy. He said they'd finally opened up the sealed section behind that wall. There really was a hidden room, old, tiny, filled with decayed furniture and rusting metal cots. Inside, they found a single wooden desk. On top of it was a stack of papers with attendance logs. The last name on the sheet was Megan R., age 9. The date beside her name was October 29th, 1956. Next to it, written in red pencil, were 3 words: shelter door jammed. Jim said they called authorities in the historical board, and that part of the school is now sealed for safety reasons. But sometimes, when I drive past that hill at night, I swear I still see one window faintly lit in the east wing, even though the power was cut off years ago. And whenever I close my eyes, I still hear that voice behind the door asking me, "Is it morning yet?"
This happened 3 years ago, on Halloween night of 2022. I was living alone back then, renting a small basement apartment in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside of Portland, Oregon. It wasn't a bad place, just old, the kind of house that creaks and breathes on its own. I'd been there about 6 months, and by that Halloween, I'd gotten used to the noises, or so I thought. That night, it was cold, the kind of sharp cold that cuts through your clothes. Trick-or-treating hours were winding down, and the street outside had gone mostly quiet. I'd handed out the last few pieces of candy, turned off my porch light, and decided to call it a night. Around 10:15, I was in bed scrolling on my phone when I heard the doorbell. It made me jump because I'd already turned the outside light off. Nobody should have been coming that late. At first, I thought maybe a lost kid or a late teen prankster, so I ignored it. Then I heard it again, ding dong, followed by a slow, deliberate knock. It wasn't playful, it was heavy. Something about it just felt wrong. I stayed quiet, hoping whoever it was would go away. But after maybe 10 seconds, the knocking came again, louder this time. I finally got up, grabbed the baseball bat I keep near the bed, and crept toward the door. My living room window faced the front steps, so I leaned over just enough to peek through the blinds. There was someone standing there. At first, I thought they were wearing a costume, a tall figure in a dark hooded coat with something pale covering their face. But when I looked closer, I realized it wasn't a mask. Their face was bandaged, layers of dirty gauze wrapped unevenly around their head like they'd tried to patch themselves up after an accident. They weren't holding a candy bag, no flashlight, nothing. Just standing there, facing the door, motionless. My stomach dropped. I stayed perfectly still, barely breathing, watching. After maybe 20 seconds, the person tilted their head to the side, as if listening. Then they took one slow step forward. That's when I saw their hand. It was bare, and the skin looked grayish, not painted, not dirty, just wrong. They raised it and pressed it flat against the door. That sound, the slow creak of skin sliding on wood, made my entire body freeze. Then in the faintest whisper, I heard them say, "Please, let me in. It's so cold." I stumbled back instinctively. I didn't answer. After a few seconds of silence, I heard soft breathing right against the door. Then a small, almost childlike laugh.
You don't remember me, do you?
That's when I lost it. I ran into the bedroom, locked the door, and called 911. My voice was shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. The dispatcher told me to stay inside, keep the door locked, and wait for officers. As I was on the phone, I heard something. The front door handle turning. They were trying to come in. I whispered to the dispatcher that someone was actively trying to break in, and she said officers were only minutes away. But then, everything went quiet again. No more footsteps, no more knocking, just silence. I stayed in that room, holding the bat, listening for what felt like forever. After about 5 minutes, I finally heard police sirens outside. 2 officers knocked, announcing themselves. I opened the door with my hands raised and told them everything. They searched the property, front yard, back alley, driveway, nothing. No footprints, no sign of anyone at all. They even checked my Ring camera. The footage showed something, but not clearly, just static distortion where the person had been standing. No body, no face, just a dark flicker. The officer said it might have been a signal interference. They took a brief report and left, telling me to call if it happened again. I barely slept that night. But here's where it gets worse. The next morning, I went outside to grab the mail, and there, taped to my front door, was a Polaroid photo. It was of me, asleep, in my bed. The angle of the picture was from outside the small window next to my headboard. There was no note, no writing, just that photo. I called the police again. They came back, searched everything, even dusted for prints. Nothing. The officer said the photo had likely been taken through the window, and that whoever it was might have been watching me before the incident. For weeks, I couldn't sleep properly. I installed extra locks, blackout curtains, security lights, everything. I started leaving the TV on at night just to drown out the silence. Then about a month later, I was cleaning out the closet near the front door when I found something wedged behind a stack of old boxes. It was a strip of dirty gauze, about a foot long, crusted with dried blood. It smelled faintly of smoke and something chemical, maybe bleach. I showed it to the landlord, but he just looked uneasy and said, "This place has had issues before. Don't ask me details, just keep your doors locked." I moved out 2 weeks later. That was 3 years ago, and I've never seen that bandaged person again. But sometimes, late at night, I'll wake up and think I hear that same knock. Slow, heavy, deliberate. And every Halloween since, I keep all the lights off. Because deep down I know that if I open that door again, they'll still be waiting in the cold.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more scary stories.